All right, so we will be having a conversation, and we also want you to chime in, talk to me and tell me what you think about this vetting process. And of course, use the hashtag News Center or at Betty M. Kello. That's my Twitter handle. I'd like to introduce my guests this morning. Here in studio, I'm joined by Juan Jarvis Bigambo. He is a governance expert. Thank you very much for joining us here. All right, we also have Maimuna Mwidau, who is going to be joining us shortly from Mombasa. She's also a governance expert, and she's also going to be participating in this conversation. Jarvis, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Right, so we want to first begin with the big issue here, that it's only Jubilee members of Parliament who will be vetting, the nominees. NASA has said that they will not be part of it. What does that do to this whole process?
Well, the danger that we are facing with that kind of situation is that cast behind or upon the issue of the tyranny of numbers and the numbers that Jubilee has within the House, it may easily make a mockery of the whole process, because vetting process is a question of looking at the suitability or otherwise of those who have been nominated by His Excellency the President to hold such public office. Remember that upon clearance by the committee, they are individuals upon appointment who will swear to protect the Constitution of Kenya and defend it as they execute their various portfolios or mandates.
Right.
So the danger here is that if the entire process does not have all members of a respective committee participating, then it ends up being skewed. You do not anticipate that there will be a major challenge through this vetting process, because if members of Parliament from the opposition would participate in the process, then you would actually anticipate a fairly vigorous and rigorous process that those who are going to appear before that committee would go through. But now, as it seems, it is unfortunate that such may not actually happen. Looking at it with the benefit of that hindsight of appointments of individuals to those offices after the 2013 elections, you realize that there are those individuals who satisfied that committee. They were appointed into those offices, but their performance throughout the 5 years was not satisfactory. So that begs the question, what is actually the essence, the weight, and the durability of this vetting process? Maybe we may want to see how to recalibrate or rethink this vetting process, or see how to enhance it. For instance, if my opinion was what I would say, that maybe mid-term of performance of a public official, they should again appear before, say, the same committee and demonstrate how they're executing their mandates or prior to the end of their term. Because what is very disturbing is that individuals who take oath of office upon such approval by the committee end up engaging in various activities that are contrary to the expectation of public office, for example, allegations of corruption, etc. So such kind of issues are things that we need not be having if at all an individual has been vetted by a committee thoroughly.
Right. Jarvis, let me also just get the views of Maimuna Mwidau, who's joining us from Mombasa. Good morning, Maimuna. Talk to me about the issue that is NASA leaders say that they will not be participating in this particular vetting. Also, just comparing with how it was back in after the 2013 general election.
Thank you, Betty. Good morning. The exercise that is taking place, it's very unfortunate that the opposition may not be able to participate or does not want to participate, because clearly the work of the opposition is to monitor the work of government. So if the opposition is not participating in this activity, then who will monitor on behalf of the people in terms of the vetting process? Because the vetting process in itself is to look at the candidates, if they are capable, if there are any issues about the candidates, and bring forth those issues. Now, if the opposition doesn't do that, that means the candidates will be approved by the majority of the members who happen to be in government. And definitely that is a job that should have been done by the opposition.
comparing it to the election after the 2013, process. And of course, you remember how it was really emphatic on just who these people were, what they can be able to deliver. You remember someone like Phyllis Kandie had quite a hard time that time proving that indeed she was solid for the job. So how can you compare that and this process that we're about to witness today?
Betty, those are going to be very different processes, and it may not be as vigorous as it was in 2013 because the opposition is not there. Who will question the executive? Not definitely the members of the Jubilee in the House. That has to be done by the opposition. And if the opposition is not there, then we will not see anything or rather new information about these potential appointees to come out in the public. Probably some issues will not come out clearly. And as far as I'm concerned, I think it is very important that the opposition participate in this issue. Otherwise, we'll just be rubber stamping these appointees.
Jarvis, coming back to you, what do you make of the opposition keeping off? Because this seems like it's a wheel that's, turning every single day, and they keep saying that, this is an illegitimate government, but still the wheel is turning, and, Kenyans need, great leaders to take charge of this docket. So what do you make of them keeping back?
What is interesting is that the opposition leaders find themselves speaking from two sides of their mouths. One, yes, they are saying that they do not recognize the election of President Kenyatta substantively after the October 26th election.
Yeah.
But time and again, they are quoted, they are on record, speaking to the media, asking the government of Uhuru Kenyatta to consider various leaders from the opposition, from all across the country in his appointments. When the issues of the crackdown have been taking place, they have been speaking and appealing to the president and the government. So when you look at it that way, then you wonder, to what extent do they recognize, to what extent do they not recognize? Yes, of course, that we know they are on this journey because of the various critical issues of the electoral nature that came out of the general election.
Yeah.
However, I think there is the question of serving the people that arises. When they were sworn into office, when they took their respective oaths, as members of the National Assembly or Senate, etc., they committed to serve their people. They are representatives of the people.
Right.
The individuals who are going to be vetted as cabinet secretaries or as ambassadors or as principal secretaries are individuals who are going to serve all Kenyans, regardless of those individuals being in the opposition or not. So it would be actually a bit unfair on the part of the individuals or the citizens that these leaders represent not participating in this exercise. Because in the end, it follows that even if they stay away, this process is going to go on. And if at all the nominees satisfy the committee, then they are going to be appointed and they will assume office and they will continue serving Kenyans, regardless of the holding back by members of the opposition. So it would have been better that they serve their people diligently by also engaging in the processes of the House, because it will not stop the House or the committee from going on with this process. So to that extent, I think it is letting down the people that they represent in Parliament.
And also just talking about legacy, because President Uhuru Kenyatta, even during his inauguration, he was quite clear that, he wants to leave, a solid legacy. Looking at the nominees who have been, brought forward, and also just thinking about the people who have been recycled, all these people who used to hold these CS positions, now they will be holding ambassadorial positions. Is it really about legacy from where you see it?
Well, there is so much orientation that will have to take place. For instance, and with all due respect to the distinguished services that those individuals have rendered to various sectors, whether public or private, you may be forgiven to think that there was no critical thought in matching the individual skills and qualifications to the portfolios to which they are likely to be assigned. For instance, if you're to pick the nominee for lands, to what extent has she engaged with matters legislation, with matters land, matters policy of land, etc., to the extent that it will be satisfying to have her in that position for the 5 years and serve the country as the Cabinet Secretary for Lands.
Right.
So you may feel that maybe the matching process of the individual and the skills to the task, to the ministry, was not so much considered there. And then, for instance, there are those individuals who served as cabinet secretaries for the past 5 years.
Yeah.
Now they are nominated for various positions, ambassadorial, for instance. Now, if you take an individual who has not had, who has not acquainted himself, for example, with the United Nations system and processes, and then you send that individual to the UN as a permanent representative, for instance, they will need a bit of time to orientate themselves with and so much learning with the process and the issues, so that by the time they start performing their duties, so much water will have passed beneath the bridge.
Right.
And to that extent, then you may feel that it should have been considered much better than that.
All right.
So, and when you look at, for example, Dr. Kobia, she's got an impressive resume. And now ascending to this position, or the position for which she has been nominated, she may discharge her duties fairly well.
Yes.
However, when you look at Article 100 of the Constitution, the question of the youth and women, there is a greater feeling within the country, and which is, of course, true, that the youth have been largely forgotten, in these nominations and these potential appointments.
Right.
Persons with disabilities have been relegated to the backwaters when it comes to consideration for cabinet positions and principal secretary positions. It would be very important and very good of the executive, and here I'm speaking to the president and the deputy, if they would find a way of having more women and more youth, and persons with disability actually having a place to serve Kenyans in those high-level positions.
All right, I'm going to go to Maimuna in a short while, but before that happens, community leaders and residents from Buri sub-county in Meru have called upon legislators from the region to back and lobby for the support of Professor Margaret Kobia during the vetting exercise that will take place today. Speaking during a special prayer and Thanksgiving ceremony held at Buri High School yesterday, they appreciated President Uhuru Kenyatta's move to nominate Professor Kobia as a CS for Public Service, Youth and Gender Affairs, who hails from Kirua area in the sub-county. Let's just listen in to some of their thoughts.
Tunashukuru the president na deputy wake kwa ile kazi amefanya, akapea the Madam Margaret Kobia hiyo position ya CS ya ile kazi amempatia, juu hiyo kazi sasa itakuwa ikihurumia wamama, na wamama watakuwa na free ya kuingia hata kwa ofisi. Wajua ofisi zingine kama ni za wanaume, wamama wanashindwa sana kuingia, lakini this time wamama wamefurahia sana na wanaserekea Kenya nzima, juu saa hii wako na ofisi ambayo itakuwa wakiingia, ambayo sasa ni ofisi ya mama.
Process ya vetting inaanza kesho. Tunajua nini inaendeleanga, tunajua watu wanatafutanga hata makosa ile haiko. Tunajua process hiyo ni ya kupakana matope, maneno ya kweli na isiyo ya kweli, na ile mingi ni ile isiyo ya kweli. Kwa hivyo hapo ndio tunatoa wito kwa wajumbe wetu wa Meru County, wote waungane mkono kama ndugu na dada, wajue hawa viongozi wamechaguliwa. Kwanza Professor Kobia ambaye ni msichana, na kuna former governor Munya, wa support waunge mkono kabisa mpaka wapite. Na ningependa kusema ndugu wa Tharaka Nithi, maana pande hii tuko Meru, Tharaka Nithi tuwe pamoja, tusherekee hii appointment tukiwa pamoja.
All right, so those are the sentiments of the people, the residents of Buri. We want now to cross over to Maimuna. Maimuna, I just want to hear your thoughts about the face of this new cabinet. If all the nominees or most of the nominees will be successful in the vetting process, do you think that indeed they will be able to match what they can offer, plus the kind of legacy Uhuru Kenyatta wants to leave behind?
Betty, looking at the various faces that have been nominated, first you will see that the president tried a little bit to bring in the faces of different regions that was reflecting a national identity. However, as a gender activist, I think that is the one area that the president again has failed to meet the threshold. And it's very unfortunate because the women in this country have been agitating for the minimum requirements. So the least the president could do is to provide the minimum 30%. And that would have been approximately about, I think, 7 women, and currently we have 6. So that is an area that we are very concerned as women. On the other hand, I'm looking at the what I would call the tribal face. For instance, Coast Province has only one face, that is Honorable Najib Balala. And again, he's back at his ministry, which he's very good at. I'm seeing the women being put together with the youth and the public service. I don't know how that is going to work, because the women agenda is wide, or the gender agenda is wide. The youth is a huge docket. I think those should have been separate dockets rather than being lumped up together with public service. If we look at the personalities, most of them are either professionals or rather politicians. There's a mixture of professionals and politicians, but the regional balance definitely has failed in this second round again, and that is not good for the Kenyatta legacy. As we talk about a legacy is about bringing change, a positive change, and a positive change means that you bring on board the face of the nation, and that is the process also of healing the nation. As it is, we are totally disorganized. Half the country is feeling disgruntled. So I don't see where we are heading. We seem to be repeating ourselves into the same system and into the same way of thinking. Maybe it's a little bit difficult for this generation to start thinking differently with a new constitution. Hopefully, maybe in the years to come, that there will be a generation that will be able to see themselves as Kenyans, and will have a reflection of Kenya.
Right. Maimuna, thank you very much for your time. We're speaking to Maimuna Mwidau, who is a governance expert from Mombasa County. So